All right, we're in. We're in.
We're
It's
in.
the yeah, it's the Colin Grace show with world famous Ty Evans, one of my oldest friends. Ty, why don't you tell everyone who you are?
Hey, Ty Evans, filmmaker, Los Angeles, California. And I'm here with the best, Mr. Linky.
Infamous. I think infamous is better.
Yeah, man. I seen you start this podcast. What, you hit me up a couple of days ago, like,
Yeah.
hey, would you be down to
Yep.
do it? I was like, absolutely, man, of course.
Yeah.
So I always love working with you, Linky. So whether it's gripping, filmmaking, podcasts,
Yeah.
you name it, we're there, dude. We've been
You
through the
you
trenches.
you brought me on some of my favorite shoots. So, that's all I can say about that. And Lord knows
Uh,
we've had a lot of little projects together, little side things of like, hey man, hey Linky, can you build this for me? Like, dude,
yep.
I got you covered. So
Oh
so
man, we got some
Ty,
stories.
yeah, I mean, so Ty is or was a skateboard cinematographer of world-renowned legends. Um, and then how'd you really like? I mean, We Are Blood's like one of the awesomest movies. Like it literally is the skateboarding holy grail of skate movies. I
Oh,
mean, when I was at
thanks,
the,
man.
I remember I was at the premiere with you guys, and it was like,
Yeah,
it was just awesome. It was awesome.
yeah.
I mean, it was. I think it was. If for anyone that knows snowboarding, it's like, and I don't. I always feel bad referring it to the art of flight of skateboarding because they're two totally separate movies and have nothing to do with each other, and they're totally done by different people. But in the big picture of like Red Bull, big explosion, taking a action sport into theaters. I feel like that was a huge thing that you did. No one's ever taken skateboard movies into theaters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's funny when Art of Flight came out, I think everyone was trying to make the Art of Flight of. I'm making the
Of,
Art of
of yeah,
Flight of
of rollerblading.
BMX, of rollerblading, of skiing,
I'm
of
gonna fruit
water
boot it.
polo.
Yeah, water polo.
I was like,
The art of float.
yeah. So, no, I mean to back up a little bit,
Yeah,
talking about Art of Flight is hands down one of the best action sports films, period. I
yeah,
mean, Kurt Morgan is the best filmmaker when it comes to that stuff. So before that, though, 1985, I started skateboarding, love skateboarding, but I
yeah,
really love skateboarding films. So
yeah,
always wanted to make skateboard films and started doing it at a very young age. Um, I never went to film school and kind of just got a camera and figured things out. And it's
yeah,
kind of been my MO ever since. From Super 8 to 16 mil to video cameras to DV, to HD cameras to, now ultra
yeah.
resolution cameras, high resolution cameras that we're using now. And,
Oh, it's crazy now.
everything. Yeah. And at the same time, as my filmmaking progressed, I started doing things outside of skateboarding, but my love was always skateboarding. And it still is.
Hmm.
I'll never say like, oh, I used to make skateboard films.
Right,
But in a
right.
dream scenario, like I'm making skate films till
Yeah.
I'm like 90 years old.
Well, now
Like,
you can use helicopters to do
yeah.
it.
Uh, but over the process of that, I've been able to meet a ton of amazing people and learn from those amazing people.
Yeah,
And honestly, one of the most pivotal points of my career was meeting Kurt Morgan
yeah,
and seeing what he was doing with the available camera technology and, seeing that's it, that's all. And shortly thereafter, him and I connected. And I remember him saying, we got to make a skate film. And I was
yeah,
like, oh, fuck yeah.
yeah. Of
Um,
course.
so, that opportunity
And
was massive.
so this was before Art of Flight when you guys met, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Art of Flight, Kurt was just like in pre-production on it.
Oh
I don't even
wow.
think they'd gone on any trips really yet.
Yeah.
I don't even think I
But
remember it was
that
right
was.
around when right before I did that big trip down to South America
Oh yeah,
when
I remember that.
when they went.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was right before then, and I was doing a project, and then we connected. He came out to LA, and then I remember I went out to Jackson, and then we just started talking, and then we're like, all right, yeah, let's do a skate film. So I joined BrainFarm around 2012.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, got to start using some of the equipment. And the biggest thing obviously was like the Cineflex.
Yeah.
I'd always seen it, gyro
They
stabilized camera system with a super long lens, and I was like, oh,
they
man,
were
how could we film skateboarding with
the
that?
thing is they were I feel like they were the gatekeepers for action sports with the Cineflex.
Yeah,
Like they really were like the okay, we're gonna do action sports, but we have the newest technology. And
it
it
was
was
great.
something that no
And
one no like
yeah,
literally back then, like no one ever thought about shooting action sports other than like fisheye lens on a handheld like
yeah,
Sony FS1
yeah.
or like
I mean,
you
seriously,
know,
hats off to
yeah,
Kurt and what Kurt did and is still doing. He's one of my favorite filmmakers, man.
yeah,
Kurt is a phenomenal filmmaker. And so to be able to partner with BrainFarm, get to know Kurt and
yeah.
have them let me be a part of that. And at the time when everyone's making the art of flight of,
Right,
I
right.
got to
Yeah.
really go join BrainFarm and make the art of flight of skateboarding. So yeah,
Oh, it was super legit.
super grateful
Yeah.
to Chad Jackson and Kurt and everyone there at BrainFarm. It was a dream. But once we finally got everything going, that was the first thing. Like, all right, how are we going to film skateboarding with the Cineflex, right?
Right.
And so that was like
Oh,
I
I
remember we
built a rig
brought
for
like the
you
big
and yeah.
I remember we brought the big BrainFarm truck up out and it
Yep.
was cool. But I remember here's what happened actually. We were doing a Red Bull commercial and you and I met on the Red Bull commercial. That's when you and I first met.
Yep.
And then Kurt was like, "Hey, we should some of the gears out here. We should just have leave all the gear out here and then ship the Cineflex out, and you should start filming some skating." And I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
So I think like a week later, we got the Cineflex out, and you had been working on the Cineranger,
Yep.
and then I remember you telling me about it. Like, "Dude, we're gonna put like a little techno on it and we could put the Cineflex on it." And I was like, holy shit, like, yeah, let's
Yeah.
go. So then I just remember driving around LA, scouting locations. And then, we obviously were going to have to shut streets down, do ITC with the police.
Just
And
so everyone knows that the Cineplex or the Cineranger
yeah,
was one of one of Brain Farm's wild ideas that happened in 1 week. It's a 6 by Polaris Ranger
yeah,
with a 20-foot techno on it, and I basically tore the whole thing apart, reinforced it with a whole crew. I hired all guys I work with,
yeah,
and I was also keying a car job all that week. So he called me on a Saturday.
yeah.
Brody brought it out on a Monday with he had the Visa Black card and the Cineranger, or it was a 6x6 Polaris at that point on the back of a trailer and a Visa Black card, and was like, "Hey, on Saturday we need to be in a half pipe in Tahoe on a 20-degree slope in the middle of the half
With
pipe."
with tracks.
Yep, with the tank treads. Yeah, and they're like, "And by the way, the tank treads won't be here for like 4 days, and and good luck." And I was like, "Yeah, I can do it." And I was just like, "What have I got myself into?" But we pulled it off. I mean,
Yeah,
you
I mean
used
that's
it,
when
man.
we flourish. That's when
Yeah,
we
yeah,
flourish, man.
yeah. That
It's
was
either do or die. You got to do
yeah,
it, man. Make it happen.
yeah.
So
It was that was for the Shaun White Olympics commercial.
right,
Um, and a little inside story. I don't know if I should even tell this one, but that money was earmarked for something else. I believe a helicopter, and that basically there was a little
that
like
line item got
little
shit.
bait and switch. And then and look, everyone was super happy with it, so it's like who cares?
Hey,
But
client happy, cool.
yeah, client happy, cool, man. That's all that matters. And at the same time, it was like, hey, we just built something that no one else, because back in the day, the only way to get a techno crane, and I hate to say it, kind of to this day that I've seen, the only way to get a techno crane or even a crane and a half pipe is, you pretty much got to like put it in the back of a snowcat. And if it's a techno crane, you got to level it because you can't run a techno crane super cockeyed like that.
Yeah,
And then you're
yeah.
destroying the half pipe, and
Remember,
no one will let you destroy a half pipe, and that's a lot of work. So
but I mean,
like
that's
the
the
whole
cool
point
thing.
was
What about
having a leveling
yeah
post that we built like from
on
scratch.
the Center Ranger? Talk
Yeah,
about that because that
yeah,
was insane. That you could
yeah.
actually have the techno on there and level it on the
I
Ranger.
I designed and built that on a napkin. Like literally, I think I designed it that night I was talking to him, and I just used electric screw jacks. They were 1,500 pounds a piece, something like that. And I ran four corners, and then I measured all the wiring, and I crossed the wiring so that, and I made my own little pickle, and it was just some ghetto
So
like
sick.
toggle switches. So when you hit
Yeah.
one, this one would push and this one would pull. And because all the wiring was the same distance and everything was the same, it wouldn't bind. Because obviously, if you had like, if the power wasn't coming fast enough to one side or to the other, you could actually bind the whole thing and then you're boned. So
Mm.
it actually, that was my theory on paper, and somehow it worked. I don't know.
Hey, it's always
I
great on
walked away
paper,
with a
right?
success. I was just like, oh, it still works. So I was like, I actually sold that post. It's in Boston, or it's in Boston or
Damn.
New York, working on some other vehicle.
Damn.
And I was in New York on a job, and they had a copy of the Cine Ranger.
No way.
Yep. And I was on
Damn.
it, and I was like, all right, so like I'm gonna put the DP here, and the guy goes, no, this can only handle you and me. And I'm looking at it, I go, no, man. I'm like, this is the Sin Ranger. Like, this is a copy of my rig. Like, he's like, yeah, I know your rig. And he's like, all smarty. And I was like, I'm not trying to be a dick. I was just like, but we should be able to put everyone on it. Like, you got airbags and everything, right? He's like, no, because like we
No
airbagged
airbags.
ours.
Yeah.
We had air shocks, and I had structurally steel reinforced the whole frame. Um, Aaron, who built all the exo carts, he was part
Nope.
of it. Who, we've used the exo carts on the skate show, on
Yep.
We Are Blood too. But
Yep.
yeah, anyways, long story short, but it was pretty funny. It was like marching around finding like knockoffs of the Center Ranger all over the US and being like, this thing's junk, dude. I built mine in a week. I'm like, and you spent like 150,000 dollars. So like, I think we spent 70 grand on that.
Whew. Damn.
But that's nothing when you think about a motion picture vehicle, a 6x6, fully custom built with airbags and a custom
Yeah.
leveling post. I
Yeah.
mean, the techno post was 4 grand from TCC.
Damn. Well, you know what's funny about the shoot that we did with it? It was great, but it took so long to get skate tricks because we had
I
to do ITC and then we'd have to let traffic through and it was all coordinated,
think
which,
we
how
had two
typical
motorcycle
shoots are.
cops. Yeah,
But do you remember what I said to you right after the shoot?
yeah,
I was like, dude, we need to figure out how to do this on our own with
yeah,
one vehicle. And
yeah.
you're like, I
Exactly.
got it. I was
Yeah.
like, I got an idea. I was like, what do you got? You're like, I'll figure it out. And I was like, "Dude." And I was like, what car can we use? And you're like, how about your truck? I was
Yeah.
like,
You had
all
the
right.
van. Yeah.
No, this is before I had the Toyota
Oh, that's
Tacoma.
right. That's
And
right.
so
Yeah.
I remember on the, what was it? On the, uh, on the Brain Farm,
It was the pickup,
what was
right?
it? On the Brain Farm, on the truck, right? Wasn't there like
Hmm.
the shock that had the Mitchell mount on it?
So
And then we were
it
looking
was
at
a
that, and then you're like,
there was a Mitchell mount on the roof, I believe, and then
yep,
there was hitch mounts on the front and back, and then I think there was like basically because I ended up building hitch mount receivers for like I think it was like Mitchell plate that went into the hitch receivers, weren't they, or something
right.
for that? Yeah.
I remember I met you, and then it was like you, and then Derek,
Yep. Derek from
and
TCC.
then
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and Derek was
Derek
the
built it.
one.
He built it.
Derek built it, and he was between you and Derek in the conversations. You guys figured out basically how to do a Mitchell mount with trailer hitch receiver
Uh huh.
on the front of the truck and on the
Yep.
back of the
Yep.
truck, and that was the
And then
game
like
changer. So
turnbuckles to
now
lock it all in. Yeah.
turnbuckles, yep, and yeah, hats off to Derek for making that thing
Derek's
because
great, man. Well,
it was
so
insane.
The Center Ranger was built in Derek's shop at his house. So
Oh
like
yeah,
without
I remember
Derek,
going
there
by
would
there.
be no Center Ranger.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. You can buy. I mean, that was like
no,
Derek was clutch
and
because
you know what's funny is so that was we'll call it V1 of
yeah, yeah,
the trailer hitch Mitchell mount, but then years later, Derek made a V2 because the
right,
first one was kind of rounded, and then
right,
he
yeah,
made a
yeah.
second one
It
that's
was like a
all
dish.
squared off
Yeah.
and like reinforced. And dude, that one can hold a K1. Like that one could hold
That's
so much
awesome.
meat. Like we put Spears K1 with the spear camera on the front of that
Hmm.
thing on the van. Like that thing's great.
Yeah.
But going back to that story, the Cine Ranger, and everything we had, it was just so much. It just was hard to film skateboard. I was like,
Yeah,
man, I need to be able to go out how I normally film. So that was you and Derek's
yeah,
solution, man. Like just put it on the
yeah.
front of your Tacoma, and we put it
And you
on
had, you
there.
had the
And then I
generator, I think,
remember I
strapped to
threw
the
a
roof, right?
generator,
Yeah.
generator, yep.
I
And
it's
yeah, we were off to the races, and that was it. I just needed a driver and an operator, and we'd go out and
I
start filming it. And once
I
we got that, that was when we could really start using that tool and loving
yeah.
it.
Man, I'm really stoked for everything you that I mean, just watching you like transfer from like almost a skateboard indie cinematographer to like now you're the guy. Like you're killing it. I'm super
Uh,
stoked for
we're,
you, man.
we're, yeah. I mean, everyone's on this journey just learning, having
Yeah,
fun. And that's what I've always been about it is trying something new and having fun with it, and whatever it's a new camera system, new opportunity,
yep,
I'm always trying to stay busy. I think at this point, I feel like I've been running a race my whole life and I don't want to stop.
right. No, and you shouldn't because that's when it gets dull.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, man.
switching over to teaching, or not full, not fully switching over, but yeah, I'm back in Maine now, so I'm long out of LA and helping my family doing stuff, but
Cool.
the main workshops have, we've reached out, hoping to be teaching some dolly classes and camera rigging. I built a little mini
Nice.
4-ton interview truck out here with a
Nice.
local kid gaffer, and I was like, "Hey, dude," I'm like, he didn't know how to build a truck, and I was like, "Hey, dude, bring your truck up here." Brought him into my shop and just we built a whole rack system, and I threw a bunch of my gear in there, and I was like,
Sick.
"Have at it, dude." And I was like,
No way.
call me for the good
That's great.
commercials. I'll be around." you
I
know?
I mean, how cool. I mean, that's another thing we could talk about, but like you paying it forward to someone, I
Yeah.
think that's what we all need to do,
Well,
and the
I'm trying
fact
to
that like what
bring,
you did is
yeah.
you're living on through this person now,
Well,
and
I'm just trying to bring LA film skills and knowledge of like, yes, we can do bigger jobs in Maine because right now Maine, I don't think is set up like, especially for camera rigging and car rigging stuff like that. Like I brought a
mm,
lot of stuff, but just from talking to the locals and forgive me if I'm wrong, like, but yeah, it's not set up with a full LA style key grip system
mm,
and which doesn't have to be, but at the same time, it's like if you're from California and you come to Maine to do a Honda commercial, it's like if you can have a local key grip that can do all that stuff, great. And at the same
mhm.
time, like there's only a couple dollies in Maine, and it's like the more we can teach people how to use these tools, the more that they get used, and the better. It just brings the whole community up. You know what I mean? It elevates them to a little higher level.
And that was like a young gaffer that you
Yeah,
had
yeah,
come over.
yeah, yeah. He's like
I like it.
26 or 27.
Love it.
That's recently, like before I even left LA. It's been my a big change in my career. Is like I was always just kind of running up here, and it's like I kind of took a step back
Mhm.
and grabbed some younger guys and was like, "Hey, man, you be the face. I'll just whisper, behind the scenes and between the two of us, and we'll, you know, you just say yes, whatever they say yes, and then like between the two of us, we'll figure it out." Like that's the
I
key
think
I always learned. Like never say no, you can't do it, or you're just always like they're like we want to do this, it's insane. And you're just like, yep, and then
Linky,
walk away, then you figure it out.
you've always been like super cool with helping people,
Yeah,
since I've known you.
try
I
to.
remember, no, you've helped so many people. I remember one time that we had like a side by side off road rig and we need to get a shock mount with the shot over on it. And I was like, how do we even mount it? I remember calling you and you're like, dude, come over. I'm going to show you how to do it and you can borrow the gear. And I was like,
Yeah.
really? You're like, yeah, come over. You're like, what are you doing in like 20 minutes? I was like, I'm there. I remember I went over there and you showed me all the clamps. We put it all together. I think on like you had a side by side there or something that we like
Yeah.
built it on. And I
Yeah.
remember I filmed it with my phone, and I was like, all right. And you're like, all right, dude, good luck.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we hop,
Call me if
and
there's
I remember,
problems.
and dude, so
Hope you
we
have
get to
service.
this. We drove to Utah. We get there at like midnight or 1 in the morning, and then the shoot was the next morning. So we take all your gear out at like 1 in the morning. We start building everything. We go to put it on the side by side, and we were one speed rail short. And I remember I was like, dude, we need a piece of speed rail. And then we drove around and we found like an old chain link fence, and we
Yeah,
took
yeah,
a
yeah. Fence
sawzall
post, man.
and we sawzalled the chain link pole that was cemented to the ground, and then brought it back. Then we measured it and then sawzalled that and then put it in there. So there was like one piece, and that pole had like stripes on it. I
Oh
remember
yeah.
from being in the
That's
fence.
awesome.
And I was like, oh man, Leaky's gonna love this.
Yeah. I bet you probably sent me a picture. I bet if I dig around, I can find it.
Probably. It was like it had, I think, maybe red and white stripes on it.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
hilarious.
I don't know, man. You've always been so cool about that stuff. It's obviously we all want to make money, we all want to work, but at the same time, we also want to help each other out
Yeah,
and make cool shit. At the end of the day, when we're working on projects, it has to be fun. You have to be
it
enjoying
has
what
to
you're
be.
doing.
Yeah.
And that, I think, for me, going back to what was you're saying irks you, it's like it's a bummer when you're on a project that's fun and you see someone there that they're like not stoked, and
Right.
it's just a job,
Yeah.
you know? And
But at the
I don't
same
know.
time, it's
I,
like
I feel like every component of filmmaking is a team effort, dude, regardless of anyone's roles.
mhm.
We're all coming together to make something fun, man. And that's what it's always about. And that's how I've always viewed it.
The best jobs you ever work on are the ones where everyone's on the same page. The job could be
Yeah.
a long job and it could be seemingly miserable, but if everyone's on the same page, it's there's a common camaraderie that's like everyone's having a good time, you know.
Yeah.
Even when it's the worst, it's
Yeah.
still fun. Like I've gotten my ass handed to me so many times and
Dude.
still been at the truck laughing with the guys going like, "Oh, so that happened." You know,
Yeah, you're
like
delirious at that
you're
point.
just like,
It's
"Oh,
4, 5, what, 5 in the morning? You guys
yeah."
have been up for
And
12
honestly,
hours,
and
14 hours.
the next day, do you remember any of the bad stuff? You're like, no, you just remember like laughing with
Yeah.
the guys and like laughing it off,
Yeah.
and
It really is a great industry, man. It
it
is
is.
so fun. It is, yeah.
I
I,
mean,
I,
I
for
don't
me, I
think
grew
people
up.
realize. Oh, I don't think people realize that on the for outsiders. I don't know if they realize like you spend more time with your film family than you do with your family. Like I was spending more time with people on set than my dogs, and I was living with my dogs, and it's like
Yeah.
and it's just you just you literally have like two different. I mean, I felt like I had two different lives. I had like go home, hang out with the dogs, and like you know take out the garbage and do that stuff, and then it's
Mm,
like when I'm on set, it's like
mm.
my best boys like my wife and my crew are like my children or
Yeah,
brothers or cousins.
it's
It's like
intense, right? You're
yeah,
so close,
your
especially you're on a
dad's like the
project and you're
DP and
like so close to these people
yeah,
for so long, and then you're on another project and some of them
yeah,
aren't there,
yeah.
you know? Yeah, it's
I miss it.
definitely
I mean, being in
uh,
Maine, I won't lie. I miss being on set, but I also don't.
yeah,
it's the trade off. When
yeah,
it's
man.
good, it's so good. When it's bad, oh boy, is it? It can be bad, but I still love it. I've it's funny. I've actually I ran into another guy out here in my hometown who actually was
Yeah.
on the water unit of Avatar 2.
Oh shit.
And he's a
That was
local in
probably
my town. And I was just like,
hard,
what the
hard
hell,
work.
dude?
Holy
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get into
That was
that. I'm
probably
doing
brutal, but
yeah, I got an interview with the gaffer coming up, Celine.
mm.
Um,
I mean,
but
that's definitely another one that was probably so hard, but also so rewarding, you know?
yeah, yeah, 2 years, 2 years.
Damn, damn.
Yeah. Well, you want to talk about some stories? I can't wait to hear those. I mean, I've
Yeah.
heard some on the outside, and I did was it Black Panther 2? I was on the water unit for the reshoots.
Hmm.
So that was kind of fun. Some of those guys were there. Same kind of the crossover
Yeah.
of water people.
Yeah. Yeah. The water unit is no joke.
No
That
joke.
is insane.
Yeah. I got an
Hats
interview coming up
off,
with
man.
Ian Takahashi too, so that's gonna be good.
Amazing.
He's kind of the LA water guru.
Damn.
All right, man.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta run. I've got some other stuff cooking on the stove here, but
All right,
let's
Linky.
do this again. Let's let this
Yeah,
marinate a bit. We'll see what comes out of it. And
cool.
Ty, man, I love you. You're
Likewise, Linky.
such a good friend, and it's so long. It's been way too long, so it's super good to talk to you.
Yeah, dude. Likewise, man. Great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. Subscribe and share. Talk to you
All
soon.
right, later.
Late.